All right. And from there, we will move on to something that is extraordinarily important. Sorry, I bumped the mic. But that is our resolution. So I'm going to read our resolution here, and once it is read, we will take a vote and see if it passes or fails. I think it should be good. Here we go. We, the undersigned, wish to formally announce our opposition to Joe Biden's Summit for Democracy gathering set to happen on March 28th and 29th, 2023. While the event appears to be dedicated to universal values like human rights and civil liberties, it is in reality something far more sinister. It is a calculated public relations attack on specific countries intended to incite hostility and pave the way for more economic sanctions, regime change operations, and war. As billions of US dollars from taxpayers flows into the hands of the torturing, civilian-killing, human rights violating Ukrainian regime, the neo-Nazi Azov battalion below it, Joe Biden has no grounds to lecture the world on international law or human rights. As the United States stands firmly behind Israel and its crimes against the Palestinians, as the United States stands behind the governments of Peru that murders its own people in the streets after a coup, Joe Biden has no grounds to lecture the world on international law or human rights. It is almost comical that the Republic of Korea, the US-backed regime in the southern half of the Korean peninsula, is a co-sponsor of Biden's propaganda fest. The South Korean regime's national security law has been used to silence thousands and thousands of people who simply want peace with their northern country folk or wish to organize for social justice or engage with Marxist or socialist values. Biden and his counterparts in South Korea will undoubtedly use the conference to spread lies about the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and help lay out the case for threats, economic warfare, and regime change operations on the Korean peninsula. We, the undersigned, want Biden to instead pursue the path of dialogue and negotiations with People's Korea and move to finish what Trump started. We want talks to continue the path towards peaceful reunification of the Korean peninsula and the withdrawal of all U.S. forces from Korea, not more threats and division. Biden's previous democracy summits have treated the island of Taiwan as if it were its own country, and this is a violation of long-standing U.S. law that recognizes one China, the People's Republic of China. These kinds of actions are intended to incite conflict, much like Nancy Pelosi's disgraceful provocation in September 2022. Biden and his guests will most likely engage in demonizing the Communist Party of China, an organization responsible for lifting hundreds of millions of people from poverty and creating a prosperous socialist society in what was once a deeply poor country. The Communist Party of China that empowers people and involves the Chinese people in the governing process and has vastly expanded access to education, healthcare, electricity, and running water for the people, not just in China but across the world, has far more to teach the world about the advancement of human progress than Joe Biden ever could. We expect that at the coming summit, Biden and his guests will play up allegations against Russia in the hopes of justifying and prolonging the conflict in Ukraine, instead of moving towards a peaceful resolution. This is unacceptable to those of us who want to see peace and to see the ongoing consequences of the war as in terms of global food and energy crisis, as well as the rising body count of civilians and refugees. It is unacceptable. We expect Biden will give a platform to voices demonizing countries like Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba that have adopted socialism as their economic system. Biden will present these countries as somehow undemocratic, despite their respective people showing overwhelming support for the project of building a socialist society and experiencing very real improvements in their quality of life. We expect Biden will condemn the Islamic Republic of Iran, ignoring that it draws its support from a well-organized population who are loyal to the Supreme Leader Khomeini and the revolution. Biden's condemnations will ignore that the situation for women and the involvement of the population in choosing the leadership shows that Iran is miles ahead of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, Kuwait, and other U.S.-aligned regimes in the region in terms of human rights. And the recent efforts by the United States to exacerbate unrest in Iran have hindered, not helped, the process of modernization and reform that the Islamic Republic is currently undergoing through a process of national dialogue. The policies of the White House at home show us that Biden certainly has no authority with which to lecture the world about human rights. Joe Biden has used the U.S. Department of Justice to target his political opponents and rivals and those who challenge his foreign policy. In the name of debunked conspiracy theories about Russian meddling in the 2016 elections, he has set the stage for pressuring and isolating many media outlets that don't follow the Pentagon narrative. Furthermore, Biden has used the events of the January 6, 2021 to set the stage for widespread political repression, government surveillance, and infiltration of dissident organizations and communities. The single most blatant example of Biden's hypocrisy on this end has been the raid on the homes of the members of the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party. This organization of black revolutionaries must be left alone and allowed to organize in the black community for anti-imperialism and empowerment without state repression. Biden lectures the world on human rights when it is well known that he sexually assaulted Tara Reade, one of his staffers. Even Vice President Kamala Harris has said that she believes what the various women who have come forward about Biden's tendency for unwanted sexual contact have said. Not only is Biden guilty of sexual assault against Tara Reade, but he and his allies have waged a public relations campaign intended to discredit and silence Reade and prevent her not only from speaking out, but of making a living and feeling safe in her own home. This shows that anything, and I mean anything, Biden has to say regarding the issues of women's rights around the world is hollow bombast and should be treated as such. The Biden administration that raids the home of black revolutionaries, that whips up anti-Asian stereotypes and racist tropes about Asiatic despotism, to demonize certain countries, that presides over a system of mass incarceration which locks away millions, and that backs the Azov battalion in Ukraine, has no legitimacy with which to label anyone a white supremacist, an extremist, a fascist, or a terrorist. The outrageous practice of pinning nasty labels like this intended to justify government repression on Biden's critics, dissident elements, concerned parents, or those who practice their religious faith must end immediately. The Biden administration has been proven to be cooperating with social media corporations such as Twitter and Facebook to suppress dissident views. New revelations from Elon Musk show that Biden's White House has turned social media corporations into vehicles of spreading medical disinformation, regime change propaganda, and partisan political manipulation. The information presented above the Biden administration continues to pursue the extradition of Julian Assange, a heroic journalist who has committed no crime other than publishing information provided to him by leakers. Assange has been the subject to years of torture and imprisonment simply for letting the world see the ugly truths about the U.S. deep state and its operations. If extradited, he will face even more brutal persecution. All the charges against Julian Assange must be dropped, and he should be immediately set free. The information presented above should completely discredit the Biden administration and its upcoming dog and pony show. We, the undersigned, call for a new approach in U.S. foreign policy, one that seeks peace through development, win-win cooperation between countries, negotiation, and diplomacy, rather than unilateral sanctions and regime change, along with engagement with the truth rather than disinformation and controlled discourse. We signed this document indicating we stand in opposition to Biden's administration and his Summit for Democracy, which is nothing but a war propaganda show, going against the desires of the American people for peace, international friendship, and economic cooperation. Okay, that is the resolution presented today. And now we are going to do the most important part, which is we're going to take a vote. And I think we're going to try it verbally, but there's quite a few people here, so if it's inconclusive, I might have to do a hand raise thing here. So based on what I just read, the resolution we have presented, all of you who are in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye! Okay. Okay, we're definitely going to have to do hand raise instead. So let's do all in favor of the resolution. Raise your hand, please. And all against, please raise your hand. I don't see a single hand. What that means is that our resolution today has passed unanimously with every single vote in the House. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We're calling out hypocrisy, folks. Thank you so much.